prepare you now for the undoing of what never was. We are reading chapter 18 of A Course in Miracles. We're on to section 5. Section 5 is called The Happy Dream. And chapter 18 is the passing of the dream. Here we go. Prepare you now for the undoing of what never was. If you already understood the difference between truth and illusion, the atonement would have no meaning. The holy instant, the holy relationship, the Holy Spirit's teaching, and all the means by which salvation is accomplished would have no purpose. For they are all but aspects of the plan to change your dreams of fear to happy dreams, from which you waken easily to knowledge. Put yourself not in charge of this, for you cannot distinguish between advance and retreat. Some of your greatest advances you have judged as failures, and some of your deepest retreats you have evaluated as success. Never approach the holy instant after you have tried to remove all fear and hatred from your mind. That is its function. Never attempt to overlook your guilt before you ask the Holy Spirit's help. That is his function. Your part is only to offer him a little willingness to let him remove all fear and hatred and to be forgiven. On your little faith joined with his understanding, he will build your part in the atonement and make sure that you fulfill it easily. And with him you will build a ladder planted in the solid rock of faith and rising even to heaven. Nor will you use it to ascend to heaven alone. Through your holy relationship, reborn and blessed in every holy instant you do not arrange, thousands will rise to heaven with you. Can you plan for this? Or could you prepare yourself for such a function? Yet it is possible because God wills it, nor will he change his mind about it. The means and purpose both belong to him. You have accepted one, the other will be provided. A purpose such as this without the means is inconceivable. He will provide the means to anyone who shares his purpose. Happy dreams come true, not because they are dreams, but only because they are happy, and so they must be loving. Their message is, thy will be done, and not, I want it otherwise. The alignment of means and purpose is an undertaking impossible for you to understand. You do not even realize you have accepted the Holy Spirit's purpose as your own, and you would merely bring unholy means to its accomplishment. The little faith it needed to change the purpose is all that is required to receive the means and use them. It is no dream to love your brother as yourself. Nor is your holy relationship a dream. All that remains of dreams within it is that it is still a special relationship. Yet it is very useful to the Holy Spirit, who has a special function here. It will become the happy dream through which he can spread joy to thousands on thousands who believe that love is fear, not happiness. Let him fulfill the function that he gave to your relationship by accepting it for you, and nothing will be wanting that would make of it what he would have it be. When you feel the holiness of your relationship is threatened by anything, stop instantly and offer the Holy Spirit your willingness, in spite of fear, to let him exchange this instant for the Holy One that you would rather have. He will never fail in this. But forget not that your relationship is one, and so it must be that whatever threatens the peace of one is an equal threat to the other. The power of joining its blessing lies in the fact that it is now impossible for you or your brother to experience fear alone, or to attempt to deal with it alone. Never believe that this is necessary or even possible. Yet, just as this is impossible, so is it equally impossible that the holy instant come to either of you without the other, and it will come to both at the request of either. Whoever is saner at the time the threat is perceived should remember how deep is his indebtedness to the other and how much gratitude is due him, and be glad that he can pay his debt by bringing happiness to both. Let him remember this and say, I desire this holy instant for myself, that I may share it with my brother whom I love. It is not possible that I can have it without him or he without me. Yet it is wholly possible for us to share it now. And so I choose this instant as the one to offer to the Holy Spirit, that his blessing may descend on us and keep us both in peace. All right, the happy dream. Course in Miracles students, not only did they talk a lot about the little willingness, but we hear a lot about the happy dream. And what is the happy dream? So this section is an attempt to bring some clarity to what this happy dream that Jesus keeps talking about is, because he has mentioned it before, but it's not exactly clear what Jesus meant by happy dream. I'd like to point out a couple things just from the get-go here. Really, when Jesus talks about the holy relationship, the special relationship, ultimately there's only one holy relationship and there's only one special relationship, right? Because we know there's only two things, right? There's only God, which is the only reality, and there's the ego, which is a substitute reality, which is not reality. It's fantasy. It's based in this tiny mad idea of separation, which is not true. So it's based in a lie. So that's all special relationships really emanate from that one foundational special relationship. And all holy relationships go back to our real relationship, which is with, our oneness with each other and with God. Jesus says here in this passage, this is a great little thing that he says, it is no dream to love your brother as yourself, nor is your holy relationship a dream. This is just another way of saying that ultimately we are all one, and that is a fact. That is a reality. That is not, to say, loving your neighbor as yourself is actually a reality, because ultimately we are all love. So that is the only reality, is that relationship that is based in love, because there is no other thing, right? So the happy dream, I think the happy dream, Jesus's point here about the happy dream is that when we change our special relationship, any special relationship we have in this world, into a holy relationship, the dream existence that we are in, because it's all still a dream, even when we make that shift from a special relationship to a holy relationship, it's not like we have returned all the way home. Remember, there's knowledge and there's perception. So we're still in the world of perception. Perception means, when we choose to see according to the way the Holy Spirit sees, our perception becomes more aligned with truth, more aligned with knowledge. It's still perception until that point in which we wake up from the dream entirely. So in other words, as we get closer to aligning our vision with that of Jesus and the Holy Spirit, this dream reality, this dream fantasy reality becomes happy, right? It becomes happier. But we're still not all the way there yet. Eventually, the happy dream will give way to waking up from the dream entirely, and then we'll be back home again. But I think it's important to have this idea in mind, because A Course in Miracles is not saying, it's not a pie in the sky type of ideal that is being presented here. It's not saying, well, when you wake up, everything's going to be rosy, when you wake up from the dream. It's actually saying that as you do this work, and the work really is is that little willingness, that little faith. Jesus says, sometimes he says little willingness, sometimes he says little faith. It's just that openness, right? It's that willingness to see that you're wrong, to see that you've been following the ego, and to be guided by Spirit, right? That's all that's really needed. Everything else would be the ego getting in the way. So when we have that little willingness, we our life here will improve. And it's not that we won't still have, quote unquote problems and things that are challenging, but we will start to see everything in a new light. We will start to see the love, the forgiveness, the compassion. We'll start to see things more and more clearly and more truly. Again, we'll be in our right mind. We'll be aligned with the right-mindedness of the Holy Spirit. And so we will be living more and more. People use the term authentically, these days, or the best version of yourself, right? You'll be living more and more authentically in the best version of yourself by doing this work, and the dream will become happy, right? This dream existence will become happy. Prepare you now for the undoing of what never was. So we're undoing the ego, right? The ego will be undone. The ego, and ultimately this is realizing there's nothing to do. That everything is happening through grace, and that little willingness. Remember, all we have to do is our little part, right? Let me see what else. There was something else I want to say. Well, okay, let's say this. I'm going to read a little bit. On your little faith joined with his understanding, meaning the Holy Spirit's understanding, he will build your part in the atonement and make sure that you fulfill it easily. And with him, you will build a ladder planted in the solid rock of faith and rising even to heaven. Nor will you use it to ascend to heaven alone. So we go there with our brothers and sisters. Yeah. We go there with each other, which is another way of saying that ultimately we let go of this idea that we are separate, or at least we're willing to let go of that idea. We're willing to let go of the ideal that there's inequality amongst us, and we're open to the idea that we are all equal. It's kind of a common turn of phrase to say we're all equal in the eyes of God. That's what this is saying. But it takes it deeper because God doesn't have eyes. So it's ultimately saying we are all one with God, and in God there is no opposite, there's no separation, there's no duality, which means that we are all equally God. But I want to say a little something here, because I've been exploring a little bit about this lost gospel called the Gospel of Mary, which is a fascinating gospel that was not found at Nag Hammadi in Egypt in the 20th century. It was actually found in the 19th century, and only fragments of it have been found, but enough is there to kind of get the gist of it. And here are just a few things that I think are really interesting about this gospel. It's who is the Mary? Obviously, it's Mary Magdalene, right? There are other Marys in the Gospels. There's the mother of Jesus. I think the aunt, I forget who. There's like 4 or 5 different Marys that are in the Gospels, but Mary Magdalene obviously is generally considered to be the most important. well, I don't want to say the most important, because Jesus' mother is equally, if not more important, but um, Mary Magdalene obviously is, even in the Gospels, there's something going on with Mary Magdalene. It's just nothing is really, you know, said out in the open. And people have, you know, there's a lot written about that Jesus and Mary Magdalene had some kind of thing. This Gospel of Mary actually seems to suggest that Mary was actually Jesus's closest disciple, and she actually understood Jesus the best, better than all the guys, even better than Peter. And in this gospel, it's clear that Mary has a better handle on what Jesus is actually saying than the apostle. I mean, if she was an apostle, I mean, obviously in the gospel she's not an apostle, but in this Gospel of Mary, she's either an apostle or she's a disciple. And Jesus even would kiss her on the mouth, it says. So what does that mean? Now that could be metaphor, or that could be, you know, that could be, doesn't necessarily mean that they had a relationship. But one of the interesting things about the Gospel of Mary is the Gospel of Mary seems to be saying something very similar to what A Course in Miracles is saying. First of all, it says there is no sin. Jesus there says there is no sin. Salvation depends not on Jesus's resurrection and faith in Jesus, but in understanding the deeper message of what Jesus was sharing, which is also true of A Course in Miracles, is that it does not come through just believing in Jesus, just believing in the resurrection, but rather there's a little bit of work that you have to do. Obviously, it's not just about the little willingness. You know, Jesus is presenting this whole course, so you would think that he wants you to do the course, right? I mean, and that takes some effort, right? That takes some doing. That takes a little bit of your own effort, but not to think that salvation lies on that effort. He's really getting at this idea here, and ultimately it does kind of come back down to faith, but it comes down to getting out of the way, right? Letting go of what is in the way, letting go of the interference, and being open to the idea that there's someone that is already there that can help you, and that's the Holy Spirit, or that's also Jesus that can help you, and that you can use them as a guide, use them as the ideal of what we're talking about here. So anyway, I just want to say the Gospel of Mary is fascinating, and you know, Jesus says here, you will build a ladder planted in the solid rock of faith. Now, according to the Gospels, the rock was Peter, and the church, you know, according to Catholicism, the church was based on Peter, whose name means rock. But obviously in the Gospel of Mary, Peter does not get it. Mary is the one that really gets it. I still like the idea of building your house on a rock, right? That was also in the Gospels that Jesus said that. But in the Gospel of Mary, Mary really is the rock, and the other apostles are not. So I just want to say that, and I want to just, you know, kind of like, and obviously the Gospel of Mary must have been used, because there's a few copies that have been found of this gospel, and it probably was used for a couple centuries at least, you know, in the early days of Christianity. So that's very interesting. Is it a Gnostic gospel? I think in the sense that it's based on not faith and the resurrection of Jesus, but on the teachings of Jesus, I would say that it is Gnostic in that sense. But there's a debate, just like there's debate about everything. There's a debate about that. Anyway, we'll talk more about this. And by the way, there's a great YouTube channel called Let's Talk Religion. The guy that does it, he's very right on. I would recommend that. Anyway, and I was listening to his thing about the Gospel of Mary. Okay, hope this was helpful. Next time we're going to talk, it's called Beyond the Body. So we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening. Om.